Hello folks, raise your God-loving or godless goblet and let's celebrate together as the winter solstice approaches. Notice my lovely pine tree there for you. It's a little subtle reminder that the big Christmas festival is coming up. Now I know that some ex-Jehovah's Witnesses choose not to celebrate Christmas, and that's their absolute choice, and that's fine. But I would just urge people to have some kind of lights and fun around the solstice, especially if you're in the northern hemisphere like we are, where it's really bloody dark and horrible. If you're in Australia and it's a lovely summer's day, then hell, get out there and enjoy some sunshine. But if you if you're here in the northern hemisphere and the axial tilt is making your days very short indeed, then I think it's quite a good idea to have some lights and some fun and do something just to say, hey, you know, it's going to get better after the solstice. The days are going to lengthen and spring will be here and everything will be lovely again. So I think that's where it all comes from, really. I mean, if you strip away the religious aspects of all of these winter festivals, it's in the northern hemisphere where these things pretty much originate. It's all about the days getting longer again and celebrating that, because they didn't understand about axial tilt and orbits and such things back in the day. But also, scientifically speaking, if you're not getting as much sunlight, then you're not getting your vitamin D topped up, and people such as myself suffer from seasonally adjusted depression. I get very much slower in the winter time, definitely, and it's a bit of a blue time for me. So I have to have my twinkly lights and nice things to remind me that spring is around the corner, and that works for me. So if you're going to celebrate some kind of winter festival, then I hope you all have a lovely, lovely time. I shall probably be doing a video before Christmas Day again. Maybe have an action-packed Christmas episode. I'm thinking of writing that soon, so stay tuned, folks. Hopefully there'll be some kind of spectacular to see you through the darkest days of winter. There's been a lot of talk recently in the wider world about fake news, and I know that some of our friends have made some videos on that subject. I think there are issues that we need to bear in mind when we're thinking about what is factual. Here are some facts to consider. Pretty much everybody, apart from me, has some kind of phone or device on them pretty much all the time that they can take a video of something and post it onto the internet. That's fantastic. But angles can fool people, things can be staged, things can be manipulated. Just because the raw data is put up there doesn't mean it can't be manipulated before you see it. That's one thing to consider. And also consider the fact that although the press as we know it is a pretty nasty bunch of people in a lot of ways, but also they serve a very important job in any democracy, which is to hold the executive to account. And I think that by and large the more reputable news agencies still attempt to do that. Now, of course, the editors are going to have an agenda in that newspaper or whatever it is, or news channel, and they won't show everything. So go and find different sources that do show you the things that you want to see. If, for example, you're interested in what's happening in the Middle East at the moment, then you could look to other channels that are concentrating more on that situation to find out what's going on, because other media outlets will be concentrating on other things. Also, beware of the news cycle. Modern politicians especially figured this out a long time ago. If you can survive 2 or 3 weeks of media scrutiny, then you're scot-free and you're home free. because people tend to forget what happened in the past. Now, we have access to old news items on the internet, and try and remind yourself of what some of these people have been saying, what they've promised, and hold them to that. That's what electorates are supposed to do. Whether we're ex-JWs or not, the citizen in a democracy has their duty, and one of those duties is to keep abreast of what's going on, is to, if necessary, get involved. At the very least, write a letter to your representative and say, I'm not happy with this, what's happening with that, and get some replies and start getting some throughput to these people. Because every letter will be logged, every email will be scrutinised, they'll be logged somewhere. And that, as I think, is what people are going to have to do increasingly as we go on. The great part of the internet and social media is that we're getting access to information very quickly, and people can express themselves like never before. These are really good things. These are really positive things. But, as with all things, it doesn't do any harm to take a step back, to think calmly about things, to seek out an alternative, perhaps contrary point of view, and see what they've got to say, and do your research on these things, and then come to your own conclusion. We left a cult where collectivity was seen as something really, really great. Oh, isn't the organisation so amazing because 8 million people around the world read the same Watchtower article simultaneously? And we thought that was fantastic. And it is good to be part of a larger group and to be part of a bigger whole. That's fantastic. That's amazing. But don't lose your individuality along the way. There is, I think, a tendency in ex-Jehovah's Witnesses to seek another group to replace the group they've just left. And I think it's very important to think, well, I've got to make my own way here. There will be people that agree with me and that I agree with them. There will be people who appreciate what I'm trying to do. These are all really nice and positive things, and that's a definite bonus and a definite boost. Speaking personally, having people comment on my videos and encourage me and say nice things is a really good bonus to doing these videos, I must admit. It feels nice. So thank you very much to everybody who does that. It's very much appreciated. We need to bear in mind that we are in a post-truth world. We are in a world where there's so much information that it's very difficult to sift and sort. And so algorithms and computer programs do that for us, which is great, but we must learn to do that ourselves as well. And especially a note of caution to reinforcing news. We've seen that in our own media here in the UK, but especially in America, where people of different opinions have their own news channels, and those news channels tell them pretty much what they think every time they listen to it. Oh, I must be right then. Well, maybe you are right. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I'm just saying that watching another channel with another point of view will give you at least an opportunity to understand someone who has a different opinion to you, and be able to say, okay, you've got this opinion, and what about this? When I did my research, maybe they don't know about that. Maybe you will be able to create a synthesis by coming together. And I think that's really what we're looking for. In science, you have thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. And that's what we really are looking for here. It's certainly how the UK political system is set up. You have the government and Her Majesty's opposition. And in the old days, they were radically different ideas. And through debate, through compromise, the centre ground was reached, which was pretty much what the right thing to do was. What went wrong in our politics, in my humble opinion, is that politicians discovered that, oh, well, we sit here, we've got radically different views, and we argue it out and we compromise, and there's a synthesis of the two, and that's pretty much what the best thing to do is. And sometimes you're on a pendulum, and sometimes that party or that party win, but pretty much when you're in the middle, that's when good stuff happens. Tell you what, let's all just hog the centre ground. And that's exactly what has happened with the major parties here in the UK. I can't really speak for the US or other countries, but certainly here, if you read manifestos of the major parties, they're pretty much the same thing, but with some different wording, because they're all hugging the centre ground. Now, that would be fine if they then got together and debated and said, okay, you've got some great ideas, we've got some great ideas, let's combine them for the good of the country and do it. That's not how it works, because the party system is still there in tooth and claw, and they want to get one over on everyone else, which is one of the reasons I personally will never join a political party, because there's always so much energy put out, oh, well, those other people, they didn't do something, and those other people, they didn't do something, so it's okay for us not to do something. That's a great segue into my next thing I wanted to talk about tonight, which is beware of the douchebag apology. What do I mean by the douchebag apology? I'm talking about a real douchebag who goes along and does something awful and then says, hey, I'm sorry, I'm just a douchebag. And everyone goes, hey, that's okay, he's just a douchebag. Well, here's a point. People can evolve, people can change, people can have bad qualities, things that are negative and have negative effects in their life, and they can overcome them through some effort and through some counselling and through other efforts. And they can change, and they can get better, and they can get on with people better. So just saying, that's how I am, well, some things is pretty gosh darn difficult to change, fair enough. But other things, with a bit of effort and a bit of fellow feeling for how we impact on other people, we can make some positive changes. And we can get on with people better and have more fulfilling relationships. Because we were raised to be incredibly selfish. And that's something I still fight with to this day. But at least I can identify it now through the help of other people in the community. So I thank you guys for that. I can see that that is inherently a cult. And a cult is inherently selfish. It's all about the cult, isn't it? And so the people inside, they build this twofold problem. That we're very selfish, that we're very egotistical, that we think we're right and everyone else should have the same opinion as us. And then on the other hand, they have on the other extreme, we're worthless, it's an undeserved kindness, why aren't you doing more, etc. So they have this constant dichotomy fighting within us. Once we get rid of the, oh, we're not worthy of anything, which hopefully we do we also get rid of the ego, saying, I'm right, everything should be mine, why isn't everything that I want mine, it should be mine, and all that kind of childish behaviour. We need to get rid of that as well. I have pride in what I do. I've had problems in my life, bad things have happened to me, as have happened to you. I think I've turned a corner in the last few months. I've made some really good progress. I'm still a messed up guy. I probably always will be. But it's no excuse for me not trying to get better, not trying to improve my situation and my mind and my conscience. These things, I think, are things that we should all do, whatever's happened to us. We should always be trying to become better people, happier people. That should be a goal we all have, surely. So, I think that's probably about it. So I shall merely wish you a very pleasant morning, afternoon, evening. Raise that goblet high, guys, because we're out of the cult. We've got an opportunity to live our own lives in our own way and to gain pride in doing honourable, decent things that help the world. So that's what I wish for you right now. Peace be with you. Excelsior.